Hello and welcome to another breakdown of Inside Star Citizen. Hope you got your coffee. Hope you got your hype pants on. I'm actually not wearing any pants right now. I'm just wearing long johns. They're hype long johns, but it's hype coffee as well. And we're getting into some stuff about guns today. It looks like first person assertion is the one we're watching. I'm loving all of this lead up to 323. I just put out a video of why Star Citizen is about to pop off in my other channel. So recommend, I think I'll link it up here. Go check it out on my main channel. This is just where we kind of chill out. So this isn't going to be your eye-catching, look at us get into the hook. You've probably already clicked off the video at this point kind of video, but we're just going to sit down, break down. Would love to hear your thoughts on this episode of ISC in the comments below, or if you're watching on Twitch, I saw you guys down here. Feel free to spam your thoughts while we're watching this. Let's start talking about this video. Let's hop right into it, okay? By right into it, I mean it's already been what, like probably 45 seconds of the video.
Star Citizen is a game about spaceships.
Let's get right into it.
When you look under the surface, we're really building a universe of the first person, with trading and lading, exploration, and devastation. And over the next few weeks, we'll be exploring such character-related features as the new personal persistent hangars, new visor, lens, inventory, and shopping apps. The character customizer, which is so good, I'm just going to already tell you we're covering that next week, and much more.
Oh, okay.
But before we leave our combat era of ISC, this week, we're sitting down with members of Team Nuck. We really got to get these new teams new names. To discuss all the FPS combat-related changes coming in Alpha 323.
Are they Team Nuck because they're Canadians?
Let's find out more.
All right.
Go on, then.
What are they doing?
The power shot.
What is this?
Sitting down.
Those look like those spy glasses I used to have mirrors on the side.
Cool.
I know. My mom thinks I'm wicked, mate.
My mom thinks I'm wicked, mate. Yo, same. My dad, that's actually my dad. My dad hypes me up. Oh. James Bond. That was clever.
This game.
A little James Bond reference there for anyone doesn't want it. GoldenEye. I like because they show off that pistols can jam now. I think that's one of the things we're getting into. There's a lot of weapon changes coming.
Is 930 years in the future. Why does reloading matter?
Reloading, I think, matters because from a player perspective, it makes you think ahead of the combat that you're about to go into.
Because it's part of a classic FPS experience. I think it adds to the tactical element of gameplay.
Why is everyone's helmets?
Fly.
Hold up. This is not OSHA. What? They just want to show off the hair. Why are there no helmets on any of these characters going into battle?
FPS experience. I think it adds to the tactical element of gameplay, thinking on the fly, and it's also quite satisfying to reload weapons. I find it satisfying anyway.
So here's my thing. I'm sorry, I paused a lot. What I'm really excited about Star Citizen is the fact that it's going to have stories. Everyone's playthrough is going to be different. We might do the same mission and have 20 different things happen. Another player might come in, bomb the area while you're doing it, help you out, fight against you. Now you got someone to fight a human and NPCs. Your gun might jam, causing you to get shot. Now your medic has to come along and heal your arm because you can't use it anymore. Like the amount of emergent gameplay that is built because of the systemic tools that they have in it now is going to be incredible, and I'm looking very much forward to hearing people's stories. I want to hear you in the Discord. By the way, get in the Discord. I want to hear you, Bali, in the Discord. If your gun jams, I want to hear the story of what happens when it does.
You give a little bit of thought that the situation you're going to put
wait to
yourself
hear
into,
people's stories.
it feels a bit more immersive.
We obviously have a bit more of a complex system with our magazines. So we obviously have magazines on the suit, and we also have magazines in your backpack.
You need to make sure that these magazines are as full as possible. So we are making you think ahead about the combat situation that you're going to go into.
Now, can we
So for Alpha
swap
323, reloading is kind of two parts. First, you've got your backpack reloading, and then you've got your ammo repooling.
So backpack reloading solves a problem where, for example, you find yourself in a situation in a combat and you need to reload, but you don't have any spare mags on your suit.
That's nice.
But you have in your backpack.
What you can do now is pull additional magazines from your backpack at the cost of an increased reload time.
It was just filling up a lot of your inventory, so we basically decided with backpack reloading that we wanted to kind of condense that gameplay and just do it more on the fly.
It is a reload, but it takes a little bit longer. It's going to play a very simple animation. So the combat flow isn't broken, but you still need to think ahead because this long reload duration can be painful in the combat if you're not careful.
Right.
Because we really want to incentivize players to think about when they're going into combat, what
can
they
I
need to think about,
choose-
how much that mag.
Can I'm just looking where the, like, there's no button press unless it's it's G is grenade. Can I choose when to reload out of my backpack? Like, say I have 4 megs on my body, but I have a lot of time. Like, I know there's no one attacking me. Instead of using up one of those megs, can I pull out of my backpack before the megs on my body are depleted? Or are they just saying you should just open your inventory and use that time now to do it? Because I would like the option of being able to pull from my backpack at any point and not deplete the megs on my body so that those are ready during an intense battle.
Magazines they want to keep on them and how much they want in their backpack.
The last thing you really want to do is pull out, open a UI and pull out magazines from here and move them across there. This allows you to keep in the combat, in the action, without having to go through inventory menus.
You will be able to see how many magazines on your suit and how full they are, and a backpack icon if you have magazines.
I really like this, by the way. You got the new crosshair, the dynamic crosshair that is showing you where your gun is actually pointed at all given times. So if you get up close to a wall, it's going to say, hey, you're going to hit this wall if you shoot right now. Really like this. Hello, Mushroom.
You will be able to see how many magazines on your suit and how full they are, and a backpack icon if you have magazines on your backpack. And if you see no magazines icon but a backpack icon, then you'll understand that the next reload you're gonna do is going to be a backpack
So
reload.
you don't get to
Then
choose. That
suit
sucks.
and how full they are, and a backpack icon if you have magazines on your backpack. And if you see,
I mean, it's a clean UI, so you can see down here. Here's your first mag, and all the bullets are in it. I like the UI design. I'll give them that. UI design's great, but the problem is that I can't choose to use the backpack. I don't think you'll see this disappear when this mag goes in.
backpack icon if you
And
have
then the backpack
magazines
is up next.
on your backpack. And if you see no magazines icon but a backpack icon, then you'll understand that the next reload you're gonna do is going to be a backpack reload. So it
I
keeps
wish I
you in the
could
flow,
choose.
but it forces you to wait a little bit. The punishment of not preparing yourself is still there, but it's lighter, it's more forgiving.
So with repooling, the idea being that if you've got lots of, let's say, we take a 30 mag ballistic magazine. Let's say you've got 15, 15, 15, you've got 3 half-empty magazines. The idea being is you just hit a key binding, the animation will play like a rummage, and basically those magazines will condense down into full magazines.
Oh, nice,
and then
good.
automatically discard the empty.
Yeah, let's do that
ballistic
again.
magazine. Let's say you've got 15, 15, 15, you've got 3 half-empty magazines. The idea being is you just hit a key binding, the animation will play like a rummage, and basically those magazines will condense down into full magazines and then automatically discard.
So it's a simplified version because the original plan, from what I understand, backpack reload is longer. So from what I the original plan was that you would have to physically insert each individual bullet into the magazine. Each round so it has to go into the magazine one by one. This is just an automatic refill fill all your half empties into one kind of situation, which is more user friendly, but it is a lot less immersive. So I can understand where people's concerns are starting to come from, where a lot of these seemingly finalized features are less towards that deep immersion simulation aspect of the original promised vision compared to what it seems like it's going to be on release. Now, do those features get added later? Probably not, because if you release a feature that's slower and worse to most user bases, they're not going to like that. They're going to think it's a worse change. So I can understand where people's concerns are coming from. Now, that said, I also think that this game, we're losing perspective. This game is still intensely more immersive and more complex than almost every single video game ever created in human history. So we're still far on the other. Like, if it's time for some paint lessons. Let's pull up some paint here and show you guys what I'm talking about. If this is like the line of complexity from full simulation to full arcadey, then we're kind of sitting. This is simulation. This is arcade. We're sitting. Most games. Let's say No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky, in terms of immersion and depth and simulation, is probably around here. They're on the arcadey side of things. You got Starfield way up here. You got Grand Theft Auto, that's up in this area as well. I mean, actually, it's probably way up here, but there's some depth to it. Then you have Star Citizen. Here's Microsoft Flight Simulator. Here's Star Citizen, right? Like, Star Citizen is still on that simmy side of things. And when it comes to deep, complex gameplay, that line, Star Citizen is right here. And every other game is like somewhere in this spectrum there. Like, almost nothing comes close to this. Maybe Dwarf Fortress. I say Dwarf Fortress is maybe down there with SC. But we're losing perspective. Sure, some of these features might have been pulling SC from being here up to here, but we're still here. And I think that's the perspective that people need to keep when
the empty ones.
I understand where the initial concern comes from, though.
Process, you will save your precious suit item ports, and then you will have your ammo condensed into your fuller magazines, so you're ready to unleash their full potential onto your enemies.
So with our new UI display HUD, we've basically got a number of the bullets in your magazine, and then we've also got a number of your combined bullets on your total player.
And duration of this operation is going to depend on how much ammo you're shifting around and the type of ammo that you're shifting around. So repelling pistol magazines is going to take a different amount of time than repelling rockets, for example.
Because there's still punishment in the fact that if you're reloading every time,
the more time actually in gameplay.
This all will be in 3.23, but after that,
so yeah, that's a good way to balance easy gameplay while still being punishing to players that make silly mistakes, like reloading too often. Your magazine's not empty and you reload. Like, the more you do that, the more time you're going to spend trying to put those magazines back together, or you're pulling out magazines that have one bullet in them. So there is still punishment for lazy gameplay and not thinking about stuff. So again, they're still approaching it with the same game design philosophy. They're just making the actual loops themselves a lot more broadly user-friendly.
You're looking into throwables and consumables, so you will be able to repull your grenades and your med pens, and there are still a couple of unclear points about some weapons. For example, multi-tool and its salvage canisters. We're still exploring what options we have over there.
So recoil is part of the identity of the weapon, and it will also allow players to express their skill in a
Thank you for the follow,
certain way.
Chilled living.
We have different kinds of recoil, very subtle recoils and very wild recoils. And depending on that, you can paint an image of either this is a very harsh, very, very aggressive assault rifle, or a very gentle pistol, maybe even with a silencer on top of it. When I've been watching CitizenCon, and we showed the new recoils, one of the biggest feedbacks was, those are laser weapons. They don't have recoil.
Oh God, if I see one more forum post about like why do laser guns not, well, why don't laser guns have recoil? It drives me up the wall.
Laser weapons in the first place, like we have them, are really unrealistic for themselves, right? There are no big laser projectiles that come out of weapons. So giving them recoil is very sensible for a game. I think getting rid of recoil in that sense
Makes sense.
is just boring gameplay.
It's fun. It needs to be in there. You know, you need a challenge when shooting people, you need a challenge when tracking people.
I think you need recoil in order to balance the game and make it fun for everybody.
You'll see in 322 we put the new procedural recoil in, and it looks mint, I think, personally. The weapons now use our entirely new procedural system, and the nice thing about the procedural system is it means that we can basically have shot-to-shot differences be massive. So you'll see when you fire the P4 now, it can basically be an entirely different bit of your screen than it was in the previous shot. Whereas before we had a very linear motion. Imagine before the recoil would essentially go like this on your camera. But now it can be, you know, kind of doing this.
Yeah, so this is an interesting topic. In a competitive shooter, people would fucking hate this. We would call this essentially bloom, just random amounts of. But when you're ADSing, it's a lot more accurate. And if you're burst firing, it's going to be a lot more accurate. So in a game like this, where people want realism, there you go. There's your realism. Your gun is never going to fire the same in real life. Like if you're just holding down the trigger in full auto, that recoil is going to be a little bit different every time. There's chaos in the world, and those chaotic elements will come in. So that makes sense, and it's going to teach you to burst fire a little bit better. This would not work, as you said, Sheldon, in competitive games where you want there to be a those games aren't built around immersion and living in this world, right? They're built around, and story, they're built around who is the best at understanding these mechanics. Star Citizen, you can get good at all these mechanics, but the point of the game isn't to be a competitive shooter. It's to be an immersive world to live in space or planetside, whatever. This is where for kill time as realism, this is where armor and every kill time is going to change depending on what gun you're using, what kind of armor your opponents are using, what kind of meds the medic they have with them is using, juicing them up. There's so many elements to what that TTK is going to be in Star Citizen because they have so many systems in place. That's why I love this game, is that there's a lot of depth to it. And this is why I think people need to really understand we're still on the realistic side of things, or the deep side of things. The game design philosophy itself has not changed. Skill-based. As you just said, Bali, with the backpack reload, choosing whether to, okay, I got 3 bullets left, but I need another mag now. Reload now. And then I'll deal with, that half-empty mag later. Those are decisions you have to make. And that's what's great about Star Citizen. It's all about decisions all the time. What are you going to do? And everyone's story is going to be different. I think we have to keep that perspective.
This all around the place, far more aggressive, and the overall feeling of it is like, oh my God, this is actually a gun. So some of this is in 322, and some more is coming in 323. So for example, the sniper rifles, these are going to have, the majority of sniper rifles will have the new procedural recoil, and the majority of the pistols will have the new procedural recoil. So you'll see some of the pistols, their personality will have changed a little bit, but their functionality will still be the same. And you'll see the snipers basically feeling a lot more powerful and angry, as you've seen with the other weapons that have had their passes.
And with the new recoil system,
I might actually
this
use
just
sniper
feels like
rifles now.
a real weapon, and it feels like this thing just has impact, right?
You want your weapon to feel angry. If the weapon is just stable and still on the screen, you'd be like, oh, this feels pants.
Oh, this is nice right here.
So we have
nice
not only just scopes, we have
Nice
a whole
sniper
new
recoil.
suite of iron sights for the majority of our weapons. So what this has done is we've essentially got stuff that has raised the camera upwards and given a better target acquisition window. This is obviously with a lot of sci-fi guns. They're very chonky, they're very kind of fat, which is just how a lot of sci-fi things are. So naturally, we've managed to improve upon this by saying, hey, you've still got that fat chonkiness, but we've raised the camera up and we've managed to make the sightline cleaner for example, your Kana rifle. On the scope side of things, we've basically overhauled how they work. So previously, if you were looking at anything that is, an 8 times or above, it would basically have a black border around the actual scope bit itself.
Yeah, now it's an actual
But now
scope.
that is gone.
Yeah.
The graphics
Which is
guys did an amazing
surprisingly
job at
that is surprisingly difficult to do in video games. Because a lot of times because you have to think about every time you zoom in, the LODs, like your LODs, like that, those people are probably far away, and you're probably at like a medium low res LOD, and when you suddenly zoom in with your scope, you need a higher LOD. So either A, there's that loading time of that LOD, and you might see graphical pop in, or what's happened is I think I've seen some developers just have it rendered twice, which is obviously heavy. So yeah, it's trickier than it looks than just adding a magnifier on it. The head is in the guy's chest. Yeah. Well, what's great about Star Citizen is they've always kind of had that fixed. In Star Citizen, when you see someone, if I aim down sight, you can see my character move my head behind the actual things, because in Star Citizen, your camera is actually attached to your eyes. So to have it look like you're aiming down your sight, your character actually has to move their head in the way. There could be some trickery going on with this, but for the most part, it's a lot more realistic. And I can tell if in the game I can look at your character and be like, oh, you're aiming down sight or you're not aiming down sight, which is cool.
It's implementing the shaders for
It's
these.
not like Call of Duty where the gun's right here. Yeah. On sight with a sniper rifle, you should be able to see your surroundings. Very cool. Yeah, exactly. It is more realistic.
So the scopes just look way more realistic than they used to be. Nice reflections and a parallax effect. This is something different.
Look at that guy. That guy's
I can't wait for you guys to see them. It's probably the
that guy's shaking
most
in his
exciting
boots.
thing.
Look at this. He's
Than
shaking
they
in his
used to be.
boots.
Nice reflections and a parallax effect. This is something different.
just a gorgeous view. I can't wait for you guys to see them. It's probably the most exciting thing for me personally in 323.
If you look through the scope, you actually see the scope inside. And depending on if it's a holographic scope, a telescopic scope, or a TV screen scope, the shader will look different as well. And then we took it and brought it to basically every scope, adjusted the shader so that it looks nice on that particular scope, and added a few other functionalities.
These scopes
to
look
scopes
really
as well.
clean. Let's talk about that for a sec. Look at the fact that you can, like when the gun recoils, you see the parallax, like the inside of the actual scope itself. They are very clean. Different likes. Exactly. That's what I'm
Looks
saying.
nice
That's
on that
crazy.
particular scope, and added a few other functionalities to scopes as well. For example, we will have multiple zoom levels on scopes. Currently, we just have 8 times zoom, but in the future, for 323, we will be able to have 8 times and 16 times zoom, or 2
32?
times and 4 times zoom.
And because our new recoil is a lot more aggressive and dynamic, it means that the reticle is moving as you'd expect on screen relative to where the actual barrel is. So not only does it help with the new procedural recoil, it also helps with the believability of the optics as well.
See, again, that's a massive thing. I've seen this done in a few other games, not a lot though, is the dynamic crosshair. You can know exactly where you're going to hit right now, because sometimes you'll be around a corner and
The new procedural
you know,
recoil.
you'll be like, okay, right here, can I shoot? Can I start hitting my target? Well, now you know, no, I cannot. My bullets will hit the wall.
It also helps with the believability of the optics as well.
So I think the whole scope experience or ADS experience with scopes is just gonna get better from here on. Dynamic Crosshair is also coming in Alpha 323.
Dynamic Crosshair it's in the name, it's a crosshair. But the good thing about our crosshair is it's a little more futuristic, a little bit more sci-fi.
So in 323, when you equipped a combat visor, you'll have a dynamic crosshair on your screen. This follows the barrel of the gun, which is really cool because if you're reloading and you pull the gun up like that, the crosshair will actually go off screen like that. So it fits into the aesthetic of Star Citizen because it's grounded in the context of where the barrel actually is, which is really cool because if you've got a pistol which shoots a bit more up like this, it actually follows it as you would expect. Previously, you were always kind of point shooting, and it causes
And it
a problem
really drives that recoil home too, right? Like you don't just see the gun, you feel it, because the thing a lot of times players are focused on is their crosshair. Where is my crosshair placed? And this really makes you realize, oh my God, that recoil on my gun.
Previously, you were always kind of point shooting, and it causes a problem in not knowing how big your crosshair actually is for your weapon.
Probably a lot, Shield.
You had to make the spread on the weapons a bit smaller than usual, because if you're going to point shoot, you have the issue of like, where is my bullet actually going to go? This allows us to say, hey, this is actually kind of what your cone of spread is, and we can increase the spread values of weapons themselves, which leads to better gameplay and people actually focusing on ADSing down sights, even in like 10-meter engagement ranges.
And it also just gives that player a little
question. So is that their hit marker? I think the square, the white square here is your hit marker, and the red X is a kill. So are they actually indicating when you've killed someone now?
These are weapons themselves.
Because they've not done that in the past.
Ranges.
And it
Yeah, see, so you're getting the box when he's hitting.
also just gives that player a little bit of extra information, so when you're hiding
an
behind
X
a
when they're
wall
dead.
or you're close to proximity with an object, the crosshair is actually going to let you know if you're going to hit the object or if you're going to shoot past it.
I heard people saying this is unrealistic. I'm fairly certain we can do this with our technology today, so 900 years in the future shouldn't be a problem to have at least military tech to have this crosshair component to them.
It's a crosshair that...
Oh yeah, it's just an invisible laser sight. I mean, what do you mean unrealistic? Hit markers and X's kill, yeah. But what do you mean unrealistic? Yeah, as you said, this is 940 years into the future. But it's also about the Star Citizens also always had the philosophy of make it as realistic as possible and then bring it back until it's fun. That's what they've done. They've pushed themselves with their systems, and now they're pulling it back in so it's as fun as possible. Now, what's fun for everyone is different, arguably. And I would say I personally don't know if I like the red X. I don't know if I like that it tells me when someone's dead. Because previously what I would have to do is just visually confirm this person's dead. And I kind of like that because it made me think about my engagements. I wasn't simply just point clicking until I saw a red X. I had to focus on what my enemies were doing. So I would say personally, I don't know if I agree with the kill confirm. That'd be the one thing I think I could do without in this. But the dynamic crosshair, I absolutely adore. I absolutely adore that being there.
Not only fits the aesthetic of Star Citizen, but cleanly fits into what you'd expect for Star Citizen as well.
We are able to deactivate it, so if you don't like it, there's a menu option for you. You can also disable the new hit markers independently of the crosshair. So if you just prefer to keep the hit markers, you can keep them. If you prefer to keep the crosshair and not the hit markers, you can do that as well.
Oh, so wait.
To deactivate it, so if you don't like it, there's a menu option.
Holy fuck. They think of everything.
But cleanly fits into what you'd expect for Star Citizen as well.
Did they just straight up address
my... We are able to deactivate it, so if you don't like it, there's a menu option for you. You can also disable the new hit markers independently of the crosshair. So if you just prefer to keep the hit markers, you can keep them. If you prefer to keep the crosshair and not the hit markers, you can do that as well.
They're geniuses. Immediately my one concern addressed 3 seconds later. That's phenomenal.
You can fully utilize it to make it your own, what you want from the game. So you can have it completely off or on. And then we have things like obviously updated hit markers, and we also have a final hit red X as well to let you know that you've confirmed that.
I will probably
turn that off. It's a completely
off.
Optional feature, but I think you're gonna like it.
So I think the reason why I'm so excited and the team is so excited about why these new changes to FPS are going to be so dynamic and completely change the game.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Is I just think it makes our game so much more modern. It makes it so much more lively and really expressive. Now weapon manufacturers are going to have much more of a unique brand to them. And the same with with our new amazing scopes. You know, if you compare the scopes that we have now to what we have coming in 3.23, it is going to be completely, I think, game-changing.
We're obviously going to do things in the future, like when we get wear
what's
and
up,
tear
Owen?
in, apply wear and tear to when you shoot those things, because we still want that to be a believable experience. Bullet blocking is an issue. It will literally be gone from like grenades and magazines and everything like that. So even backpacks. So people previously would have to shoot people in the legs if they wanted to consistently land shots, which is a problem because realistically that's not a good feeling of like, I'm behind you, I have to shoot you in the legs so I can focus on shooting you in the chest now.
We really like the fact that the Crosshair is basically kind of starting the whole archetypes for armors. So as we move down into the PU, we want our armor sets to become more specific to their needs.
If you look at our game, half of this is basically FPS combat, and these improvements will bring the FPS combat to AAA standard and make it feel like a more polished experience. It's not something that you can put into words.
So the issue before was that things like magazines or backpacks could, if you shoot someone, it would block the bullets and you wouldn't get a hit. So people would just started shooting people in the legs to confirm that they would get the hits. That was the issue, and that's not going to be an issue anymore.
But something that will, that you will appreciate while playing our game. And I hope all of these changes make your time in the verse more fun.
I think this just
overall
is
positive.
So much more about gameplay. It's less about getting bogged down in menus. It's more about on the action, and it also integrates so amazingly with our HUD.
A fluid experience, which is what we're aiming for, which is what we, really want to deliver. I'll see you in a bit.
Oh my God.
Oh, I have to get the microphone. Yeah.
So, what did we learn this week? We probably can't do this in a helmet. We learned that procedural recoil system reaches all FPS weapons in Alpha 323. That the dynamic crosshair will enable some occasional hipfire goodness. That new scopes means better ways to refund your enemies' lives. And that reloading changes means more of the pew-pew and less of the few. Sometimes I hate me too.
Yeah.
For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
That was a good episode. That was great.
For the character customizer.
Okay. Because I agree with a lot of what was done there. And again, what's incredible about that is the fact that Pulp Fiction. All right. Well, what I love about this, and I thought was incredible, was the fact that immediately, because I am very focused on CIG and their staying consistent with their game design philosophy. And one of those key things is make it immersive, make it engaging, and make it have deep gameplay loops, which is what makes it immersive and engaging. And when they add something like the hit markers that ultimately does take away some of the immersiveness, that's when I question them. And what I did in this video, I questioned, have they forgotten their game design philosophy? And then immediately after they answer it, no, we haven't. Don't worry. We still know why and what we're doing here and what we're building and what kind of game we're making, because they immediately say, no, you can turn that off if you want. And I think that's fine. If a larger player base wants that crosshair, go for it. That's not why I play Star Citizen. I'm not primarily in this. It's not a competitive shooter for me. I don't need to have those confirmations. I am in it because of story. If I go into a gunfight and I don't have hit markers or kill confirm markers on because I find that more immersive and I lose a gunfight as a result, I'm not mad, because to me, that's story. I went in and I can tell someone, I forgot to check. I checked my corners, dropped 2 guys, but I forgot to kill confirm. And one of the guys was still crawling along. A medic came along, healed them up, and then they came back and shot me. And to me, that's a story rather than, what did you do in the battle? Oh, I moved my mouse until I saw a bunch of red X's. To me, that's obviously I'm simplifying their version of the story, but those take away those elements for me. I play Star Citizen for that immersive element of it, and I'm not going to be in a lot of gunfights. Hopefully, the style of gameplay I want to play, and So I'm glad that I can turn that off. And I'm glad it was addressed because, again, it confirms to me CIG is still very much aware of what kind of game they're building. And I think a lot of the little like the bit of dooming that's going on in the community right now about, oh, it's being arcadey, oh, it's being simplified, is a way overblown. I think people need to calm down. I think it's way overblown. I get people's concerns with like the flight model and stuff. There's a few 1%er communities that are upset about it, but the larger player base, I guarantee you, does not care. Although I could imagine a world in Nine Days of Future where you know if the person you're shooting is alive or not. Potentially, I imagine the opponents would find a way to mask that stuff. Because the thing with Star Citizen also is that what does kill confirm mean? What does that red X actually mean? Because when I die, when I'm incapacitated, does it just mean incapacitation? Because shooting me doesn't necessarily mean I'm dead. It could just mean I'm bleeding out and I'm going to die soon in Star Citizen. Someone could still come and heal me and save me. Is the red X going to appear for them when I'm incapacitated or when I've actually died? I'm very curious what that X actually means because they didn't address that. Incapacitation or full death. Don't know. They didn't tell us. Those are my thoughts. If you agree with them, let me know in the comments below. If you really agree with them, feel free to go to my main channel and give a subscribe there and hit the join button if you want to support the channel. I'm diving full in Star Citizen content and would love if you're able to support it. If not, just leaving a comment down below is more than enough, even if it means you disagree with me. I'm totally cool with that. It's okay. Thank you guys for watching. And until next time, keep gaming hard.